Hey everyone, and I'm back. I know I said I was going to do this review after a complete playthrough of all five episodes, but I felt like if I was to do that, I would be slightly too biased towards and a little too frustrated with having to play the complete game like for third or fourth time all the way through, and I would definitely give a biased opinion, and I didn't want to have to put off this review for any longer, given that everyone and their mothers have already written this review for this series as a whole by now. Like right after the final episode was released. Anyways, where to begin? I'll probably start off with the negative aspects first, because honestly, I feel like that's like a shorter list. Anyways, first off would probably be the some of the writing and some of the voice acting, which would which I felt was a little, I would say, uh, subpar, but that's too harsh of a term. I feel to say I would probably say that they had a couple mishaps where, if you remember me playing the first one, I specifically pointed out a couple times where some of the lines and some of the line readings actually physically made me cringe, and I honestly felt like that was your major theme throughout the all five episodes. Though I do gotta admit that they did improve the quality of that towards the end, especially in the fifth episode. Uh, as far as graphics go, I would honestly say that it is actually exceeded my expectations, given that I felt like this is maybe a indie game versus a game developed by a major publisher, given that Don't Nod Entertainment had maybe Remember Me and not much else aside from that, which again was published by Square Enix or Capcom, I believe. Anyways, given that their budget, I felt like the graphics were actually pretty well done, aside from the lip syncing issue, which was a major issue from all five episodes, as oftentimes as you could obviously remember that everyone had like their own major gripes about the lip syncing. Aside from that, I do not have that many issues with the game aside from the endings, which everyone has complained about up to this point. And to that, I want to be a little cliche and say that often it's about the journey and not the ending. As even though I kind of despise what they did, I'll give you my opinions about that a little later down the road. But they did suffer from Telltale Games syndrome, I feel. But I would like to, aside from that, I didn't have like too many issues. Another issue, well, aside from that, the only issues I really had was that the last two episodes were maybe a little rushed, in my opinion. Because with the fourth episode, I distinctly remember that they didn't. It was despite them going over the 6 week target, they obviously didn't work out a lot of bugs. Because I was like one of the people affected that they couldn't get the audio to work for a little bit until I found a workaround for that bug. And I also, even though I didn't have that issue with number five, I also heard that a lot of people had that issue with the fifth and final episode. Which obviously, if that were to happen to me, I would be really pissed, given that it did go over so much over the 6 week, actually closer to 2 month target, which obviously I was a little antsy to get my hands on and to play. Aside from that, there's not that many major issues. Aside from obviously, as you could saw, that there was some plot holes and such. Unlike why exactly were messages on the cell phone that shouldn't be there, and even though given that your ability to turn back time and such. But yeah, aside from that, no other issues. As for the positive, I feel like this game was, despite the awkward one-liners and such, it was amazingly written up to the last episode. But again, I'll give you the opinion about that much later on. Uh, yeah, this it was amazingly well written. You got your each character was like uh, developed to a point where you can relate to them in some way, shape, or form. And up until the fourth episode, end of the fourth episode, like it kept you, which ended up ending on a major shock, at least to myself. Uh, was really well written. You invested a lot of emotion into the each character, and at least from, or at least that's what like on the mass basis seemed to be. Uh, the each character had their own individual traits that give you like your own distinctive connection to them, as well as the music was superb. Like there was often times where the music fit perfectly meet the feelings that you were supposed to feel, as well as the soundtrack that they added was absolutely great. Like I never heard of the band about the band beforehand, but I'm officially a fan of them now. Uh, as for yeah, not too sure what to say about that. Like aside from that, like it was an amazing game, really well written. You got emotionally connected to each character, which on a game like this was absolutely necessary. And like the game was simplistic enough to not have to have a tutorial, which I absolutely love because the tutorials these days bother the heck out of me. Like I can't even begin to tell you like how many times like I despise like getting my hands on a game and where I have to go through a 20 to 30 minute review on a game that I relatively feel like is fairly simple to pick up. This game did not have that issue. You just got straight into the gameplay and like found out how it worked from the get go, which again is greatly appreciated. Uh, let's see. Now, I guess I suppose I should wrap this one up and say, as for the ending, I know I gave the fifth and final episode a good review. But at the time, I was a little too close to it, and I was trying to overcompensate for a lot of the things I wanted to nitpick about it. But I guess I'm far away from it enough now to give you my accurate opinion about it. First half of the fifth game was honestly, first time playing through it, I honestly felt like I was getting we got ripped off. Uh, it did not feel like the first four episodes, and it kind of felt like it was taking a completely different direction. Uh, I still kind of feel that way, but honestly, it's a lot different now. Well, not really a lot different, but like now that I know like what the fifth and final episode looks like as a whole, I honestly think it was a little too different for the tone that they did beforehand. As for the endings, I'm not too huge of a fan. Like, yeah, it kind of feels like we did get chipped with it. Like, we went through the entire series thinking that like they would have like a different ending, like uh not really different endings, but like you would kind of feel like they would have like a different outcome given that either ending that you choose, you lose essentially. Because like every ending that you get, you either lose and the emotional investment that you made, or several, depending on which ending. Uh, with that said, I cannot blame the developers that much because, like I said earlier, they did not have a huge budget like a lot of the other major developers have, so they could probably not put out a game like Heavy Rain where there are like six or seven different type of endings that you can get, where if someone were to die, they would their ending would be either written out or whatnot, or like it would limit the outcomes of the end of the game. So I can kind of forgive them for that, but at the same time, it was almost like a kick in the groin, essentially, given that the a lot of the investments and all the choices you made towards in the game were extremely hard to make, and a lot of the outcomes did hit you. Tend to hit you hard depending on your emotional investment. Another issue I had with it was the fact that Telltale Game Syndrome, a lot of the aspects of the game did give you like I said before, two aspects where you it's a lose lose situation where should you do the right thing in a previous episode in this game, like you would give you a negative response in the fifth and final episode, uh, where it also gave you a negative aspect of the game. But what can you do? Like I said earlier, it's a more of the journey that about the journey than it is about the ending. With that said, I'd probably give the Amalgamated game 77.5 out of 8, given that the entire game as a whole was an amazing piece of work. It had a lot of emotional sentiment, and like despite its shortcomings, did tell you quite an amazing story. Had an amazing soundtrack. Gave you a lot of incentive to keep playing, and had a great storyline, much like a lot of the Telltale games that you had. So yeah, if you haven't played this game already, I highly recommend it. Uh, it was probably one of the cheaper games that you'll probably pick up, especially on Steam sales. That will and one of the better single player games in the industry right now, well, in gaming to begin with. That's out there in a world where online gameplay and like online multiplayer has become predominant. Has been the major sell value on many games these days. So if you're like me and and suck at a lot of video games and just need a decent single player game, and even if you are one of the decent people that like multiplayer games, I'd definitely say still pick up this game. You'll be pleasantly surprised and impressed by this game. Anyways, have a good one.